All right, let's dive right into this explainer and examine how the serene, freezing nature of winter can instantly become the perfect trap. You know, when we think of winter, we usually picture cozy fires, fresh snowfalls, and completely peaceful landscapes. But there's a totally different, much darker flip side to that snowy coin. The very elements that make winters so beautiful, the dead silence, the heavy snow, the sheer emptiness of it all, can actually be weaponized. Today, we're looking at 3 true, downright chilling accounts where the winter environment wasn't just a backdrop, it was a literal tool used by predators.
Your brother isn't here. Now, that is a deeply chilling phrase, and it completely shattered the safety of an 8-year-old snow day. It's really the perfect entry point for our analysis today. Just imagine being a kid, right? You're playing hide and seek on what you absolutely believe is a completely empty property during a massive blizzard, only to have a strange woman open the door and calmly deliver those exact words. It immediately violently shifts reality from innocent childhood fun into a highly dangerous scenario.
Part 1. The chill of isolation. So, before we really crack open these case files, we have to understand the psychological environment we're dealing with here. Winter is uniquely isolating, and that specific type of isolation breeds a very specific type of vulnerability.
Think about the extreme contrast here. The isolating nature of heavy snow acts as both a literal and a psychological smokescreen for some truly sinister behavior. While we perceive the dead quiet as peaceful, predators see it as a rock-solid guarantee that no one is going to hear you scream. While we look out and see beautiful heavy snow, they see impassable roads and a severe critical delay in any potential rescue. The environment itself literally becomes an accomplice.
Part 2. Case 1. The vacant house. All right, let's head to Colorado for this first incident, which took place during an absolute monster of a blizzard. 2 young brothers, aged 8 and 11, decided to brave the insane weather for this huge, elaborate game of snow fort hide and seek. The crucial thing to understand here is that they chose a location where they expected absolute 100% privacy. This neighboring property was vacant 9 times out of 10. They purposefully sought out isolation for their game, a fact that was terrifyingly exploited. Because when that 8-year-old went searching for his older brother, he walked right into a snare. In that moment, the 8-year-old realized he was walking straight into a near abduction. He didn't just blindly panic. His young brain instantly processed all these terrifying clues at once. He saw his brother's footprints approach the house, but then double back and run toward the woods. He saw a strange man in a black beanie hiding his face upstairs. When the unknown woman smiled this creepy smile and waved him inside to, quote, get out of the cold, he screamed his brother's name. And when she dropped that smile and heavy footsteps started rushing down the stairs, his instincts kicked in and he ran for his life.
So, what happens when that safe haven next door is secretly occupied? It brings us to a terrifying conclusion. When the boy's father finally went over to confront the people in that house, the doors were locked tight and nobody answered. The police were called, they contacted the owners, and get this, the owners confirms that the house was supposed to be completely empty that weekend. Whoever was inside had broken in, and they were actively using the blizzard as cover to lure a child right through the front door.
Part 3. Case 2. Devil's Forest. For our next case, we are shifting gears and heading over to the slopes of Vermont. A group of 4 college guys are on a ski trip, pushing their limits on the mountain when what seems like a totally lucky encounter spirals into a desperate fight for survival. The predators in this case used the promise of a hidden glade trail called Devil's Forest to lure these 4 young men away from the safety of the crowds. 2 incredibly beautiful girls approached the group, flattered them, and played right into their egos. They completely leveraged the appeal of an exclusive, obscure trail that required walking uphill through fresh, desolate snow. They were literally convincing these guys to walk away from civilization. When you trace how this afternoon played out, it is just staggering how fast a fun time escalated into a highly organized trap. Within just 1 hour, the group went from feeling like the luckiest guys on the mountain to hiking completely off trail to dropping face first into the snow, physically incapacitated in the middle of nowhere. The women had casually passed around an unmarked bottle of alcohol, which turned out to be heavily laced with an incredibly fast-acting drug. It is wild to analyze the psychology of a lure like this. These targets rationalized away every single warning sign. They ignored the unmarked bottle because their egos were challenged. They ignored the strange uphill hike because, hey, they wanted the adventure. Even when they reached the bottom of the trail and there was absolutely no ski lift inside, just endless, dense forest, they told themselves to stop worrying. And by the time they realized the actual danger, one by one, they started dropping into the snow,
totally paralyzed.
The only reason the narrator of this story escaped a brutal robbery, or quite possibly worse, was by faking his own unconsciousness and fleeing before the men in the getaway van could catch him. He lay there and watched the two girls strip his friends of their expensive skis, hike over to a clearing, and meet 4 large men waiting in a van. Because he was the only one who hadn't swallowed the drink, he was able to jump up just in time, realizing exactly how close he and his buddies came to just disappearing into the Vermont wilderness.
Part 4. Case 3. The Frozen Lake. Okay, this final case, it's honestly the most bizarre, and undeniably the most visually disturbing of the whole bunch. It perfectly captures how the serene stillness of winter can camouflage absolute nightmares. And the setting here is pure, intense isolation. Not a single soul around, dead quiet. The landscape is illuminated only by this massive, bright full moon reflecting off the snow. 3 friends walk out about 100 feet onto the ice just to take in the peacefulness. But then, that silence is broken. They spot a dark, hunched figure moving near the distant tree line. The sheer absurdity of what happens next is terrifying, as the witnesses slowly realize what they are actually looking at. At first, they genuinely think it's a bear, but the movements are way too human. Then, they see a rope trailing behind the figure, dragging this small black bag across the snow. The real horror sets in when the figure suddenly unzips the bear suit, steps out as a human man, grabs a massive rock, and begins violently bashing it into the frozen lake. He was clearly trying to create a hole to dispose of whatever was in that small bag. When the man finally notices them standing there, he shatters the silence and it triggers a full-blown panic. One of the friends just whispers, "What the hell?" But when the figure in the distance yells out a booming, "Hey!" the spell is instantly broken. The 3 friends run for their absolute lives. And that heavy snow that made the night look so beautiful, it suddenly makes it exhausting to run away. It drained their energy as they sprinted back to their truck, completely terrified the man might have a weapon.
And this brings us to a sickening realization. That small black bag they saw being bashed into the ice, it may have been connected to a very real, horrific tragedy. Months later, an old missing persons report aired on TV for a child from that exact same area. The timeline of the disappearance matched the exact night those friends stood on the ice. While we can only look at the facts of what was witnessed, the horrific possibility of what might have been in that bag casts a profoundly dark, somber shadow over this entire encounter.
Part 5. Surviving the Winter Terror. To wrap up this explainer, let's pull back and look at the thread that connects all of these chilling encounters. What is it about the dead of winter that enables these kinds of events?
The absolute crucial takeaway from these 3 cases is that the very things that make winter beautiful are exactly what make it so incredibly dangerous. Whether it's an empty house in a whiteout blizzard, an obscure trail deep in the snowy woods, or a frozen lake at midnight, isolation is the weapon of choice. The snow hides the tracks, the severe weather keeps bystanders indoors, and the desolate environment traps the victims just as effectively as any predator ever could.
So, how close do we brush past true evil in the dead of winter without ever even knowing it? It's a terrifying thought to leave you with, right? But understanding the anatomy of these situations and how the environment can be turned against you might just keep you safe the next time you find yourself alone in the snow. Because as these stories prove, sometimes the coldest thing out there isn't the weather at all. Thanks for exploring this topic with me, and definitely stay safe out there.